Welcome to McStoics, champion. May I take your order?
Yeah, I'll take one unbreakable burger to go.
Excellent choice. Would you like to make that a badass bundle for an extra $3.99?
Sure, why not?
Absolutely. Your total comes to $35.50. Alternatively, you could pay in 548 hours of McStoic watch time.
No, I'll just pay by card.
Here you are. Have a stoic day, champion.
Thanks. So this is what passes for Stoicism on YouTube these days. A cheap, quick, and unobjectionable product generated by AI at scale and stripped of all its nutritional value. Designed to go down easy and keep you coming back for more. It's quintessential AI slop. Now it's not all bad, don't get me wrong, but a lot of it is reliably misleading in terms of representing Stoic philosophy. So today I want to take a look at the 5 biggest things that McStoicism gets wrong about the real thing. This is Frank Philosophy. The first thing I want to talk about is how a lot of these videos sand away the difficulty of Stoicism. A lot of these McStoicism videos market Stoicism as a series of self-help slogans that can improve your life in the modern world. And in terms of the content, a lot of them get a lot of stuff right. So the idea that we shouldn't let external things affect us.
It is not events themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them.
That basically is Stoicism in a nutshell. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus writes pretty much exactly that in the handbook. Another recurring theme is focusing on what we can control and spending less energy on things that we can't.
It comes from attending to what is within our control, our perception, our judgment, our responses.
This also pretty much nails it when it comes to Stoicism. Some things are up to us, like our judgments, our intentions, our thoughts, and our actions. And some things aren't, like basically everything else. And freedom and wisdom comes from knowing the difference and acting accordingly. The problem is with how these slogans get marketed. They're kind of treated as a source of a magical shift in your thinking to help you unlock your hidden potential. They make it seem like you can just think your way to inner clarity. But real Stoicism is more difficult than any of these videos ever make it out to be. It's like really hard, like a lifelong commitment to completely rewiring your brain hard. And this doesn't mean watching endless hours of these YouTube videos or even daily meditations or journaling. It's harder than that. Stoicism is radical and sometimes terrifying. Because a lot of the times it means abandoning the things that bring you joy and make you sad in the single-minded pursuit of virtue, which is not fun or satisfying in any conventional sense. But it's also the single most important thing a human being can do. And Epictetus is relentless about this. In chapter 29 of the handbook, he compares being a Stoic philosopher to training for the Olympics. And he meant it as a warning. You have to follow a strict diet, a strict training regimen, and give up a bunch of pleasures like good-tasting food. You have to train in the heat and the cold. You have to be prepared to be flogged, punished by your coach, beaten down in the ring, and lose again and again, and still keep going. He even tells his students to eliminate desires entirely for a while, like a cleanse before you're actually allowed to want anything again. This is boot camp for the soul, and to some extent for the body too. And this is why I chuckle when I hear stuff like this from a video titled, "Focus on Yourself and Stay Silent. Stoicism Philosophy."
Today, you're going to discover the habit that changes everything. It's not what you think, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you practice it, everything shifts faster than you ever imagined.
A magic shift that happens faster than you ever imagined is the exact opposite of what Epictetus tells us to expect. It takes a lifetime, and you'll spend most of that time not living up to the Stoic ideals. It's not about applying one simple habit throughout your daily life and then suddenly seeing things with clarity. That's just not how it works. But some videos take this magical thinking even further. They seem to argue that we can just think our way to ignoring feelings in a relatively short period of time. And again, this completely downplays just how radical and difficult Stoicism really is.
The moment you stop treating every uncomfortable experience as something that needs to be eliminated, you begin to see that many of them were never as powerful as they seemed. They were just amplified by the way you were holding them.
Okay, so when we're talking about like a Tinder date standing you up, sure, a bit of Stoic indifference is probably psychologically healthy. Don't get too hung up on it. But what the Stoics actually wanted was for you to have the same exact reaction when your dog dies, or when your wife dies, or when your child dies. Those last two examples come from Epictetus's handbook. Those are his examples. So please tell me which videos I should watch to finally realize that those feelings were never as they seemed. I was just holding them the wrong way. Because for Epictetus, that really is the goal. He would want us to say, yep, she's dead. What are you going to do? She was just an external, impermanent thing and wasn't going to live forever anyway. So I don't know, get back to work. Here's what he writes. In the case of everything attractive or useful or that you are fond of, remember to say just what sort of thing it is, beginning with the least little things. If you are fond of a jug, say, I am fond of a jug, for then when it is broken, you will not be upset. If you kiss your child or your wife, say that you are kissing a human being, for when it dies, you will not be upset. That's Stoicism, and that's why it's so insanely difficult. It teaches us to become indifferent to things that seem crazy to let go of, and to do so in favor of a life of pure virtue. It demands daily, deliberate, effortful training, untraining, and retraining of every single facet of your psychological life. It asks you to abandon every feeling you previously took comfort in, the good and the bad, in order to make room for a life of the mind, the life of a true philosopher. Now, McStoicism completely misses this, and probably for good reason, because that's why it sells. This will take years of unglamorous, slow, tedious work, and you may end up seeming like a heartless monster that nobody wants to be around. Doesn't make for a very good YouTube video title. But these 10 Stoic tips can instantly improve your life and make you irresistible. Well, that's a much easier sell. Like I said, engineered to go down easy and keep you coming back for more. Now, I do want to be fair that there is some lip service occasionally paid to the difficulty involved in Stoic cultivation. The phrase simple but not easy appears often in these videos. But I think part of this is just cynical ego massaging, where it's supposed to imply that only you, champion, have what it takes to walk the Stoic path, but without actually telling you what makes Stoicism so difficult, like just how radically different it is from everyday thinking. And regardless, they're still pretty unreliable about the demands of Stoicism and the ultimate goal. And that's just the point that I want to make here. And I'll also admit, because I sort of anticipate this kind of comment that I know you're furiously typing right now, not very Stoic, by the way, you might think that this watering down of Stoicism is actually an improvement, since now Stoicism is more applicable to daily life. McStoicism is actually better than the ancient old dreary thing. And, we can have that discussion, I guess. But all I'm saying is that this is pretty far removed from the original. And we shouldn't pretend that real Stoicism is less radical than it is. And a lot of these videos claim to be promoting real Stoicism. So yeah, living the Stoic life is way more difficult than a lot of these videos let on. Another thing is that a lot of these videos delete God from the equation. In fact, the vast majority of them. And this is actually a pretty big deal, because Stoicism is deeply religious. For the ancient Stoics, Stoicism wasn't just a set of quick tips or life advice, even though that's what it's become. It was a complete system of philosophy, rooted in the idea that the universe is rationally constructed, just, and orderly, and that everything moves in accordance with a divine order set by God. And this is why the advice to let things happen as they do and accept the world the way that it is makes sense. Because it's based in the belief that the universe is fundamentally rational, just, and good. Things proceed in accordance with fate, and fate proceeds in accordance with goodness, no matter how cruel things might seem. If you don't see the divine or cosmic justice in something happening in the world, that's on you, not on the universe. You can cultivate your mind to try and understand it, and in fact, that's what it means to be a philosopher, according to the Stoics. But even then, our perspectives are still woefully limited, and we'll never be able to fully understand most of the world. We're just too small. And Epictetus writes in the handbook that the most important part of being pious, which is an essential part of being virtuous, is believing that the gods order the universe well and justly, no matter how things might appear to you. He says that you've been assigned your place in the world by God, and it's your duty to fulfill it to the best of your abilities. And his handbook even ends with a prayer. Lead me, Zeus, and you, destiny. So if you remove God from Stoicism, it becomes, hollow. It loses the metaphysical and spiritual foundation that animated ancient Stoicism. And as a result, the moral lesson gets lost too. More on that later. Instead, a lot of these videos encourage people to turn inward and trust their own internal values.
The effort that remains is deliberate, precise, and aligned with internal values rather than imposed by external pressures.
The thing that you're supposed to align your actions with used to be the cosmos, or God himself. But now it's you and your unspecified values, whatever they may be. And the videos are usually pretty careful not to actually spell out too much here, presumably to maximize their appeal, so anyone can just fill in whatever values they happen to have. And the idea of being true to yourself and true to your values and reducing distractions and stuff like that is totally fine. Sure, people need to hear it. Great. It's just not Stoicism. You can't have real Stoicism while removing all the parts about God. Then it's just a list of life advice, which is fine, sure. But I just want people to be aware of the spiritual and metaphysical core of the real thing that gets dropped in these videos. Now, do you need to believe in the Stoic conception of God to adopt Stoic-inspired principles in your daily life? Of course not. Obviously, a lot of this advice can be applied in totally secular contexts. But I will say that belief in a higher power that serves as the rational and just foundation of the universe might make true Stoic letting go a bit easier. Cultivating a faith and humility that the universe might be just and orderly and we just don't understand it could be helpful on your Stoic journey. So if you're interested in Stoicism on the one hand and also have any inclination towards the spiritual or religious, maybe pull on that thread. And the good news is that if you want to go down that road, the Stoics thought about God and spirituality in a way that's pretty general and all-encompassing. God is sort of just the guiding force of the universe that we as human beings have a unique connection with. Spiritual but not religious kind of works here. And if you're interested, I have a video on the Stoic conception of God that I'll link below. So yeah, deleting God from the equation. Definitely something that McStoicism does, and definitely a radical departure from the real thing, for better or worse. A third thing is that McStoicism is also really individualistic in a way that isn't true to actual Stoicism. And this is really apparent in a lot of videos that emphasize the value of silence, inner focus, and valuing yourself.
And it starts the moment you make a single decision: to focus on yourself and stay silent.
And a lot of these videos are relentless about other people. Other humans show up almost exclusively as threats. They're critics, they're distractions, they're office politics, they're the crowd that you should stop performing for.
You defend yourself to critics who will never be satisfied. Every explanation you offer to someone who doesn't need to hear it drains your momentum.
And so videos like these pitch a sort of sovereignty and protection through disengagement. Be strict and circumspect with your time and energy, and stop leaking energy to other people. Become unshakable and self-contained. A similar theme is about valuing yourself above others.
Every time you ignore your own needs to keep someone else comfortable, you teach the world that your feelings don't matter. You become the person everyone can count on, and that sounds noble until you realize it means you can't count on yourself anymore.
Now this is maybe good advice for people who need to hear it, and that's fine, but it's about as unstoic as you can get. Because according to the Stoics, like Epictetus, your feelings don't actually matter. You need to show up and perform for others no matter how you feel and whether or not they deserve it. As long as that's what you've been assigned to do, ideally by morality, by the rational order of the universe. People should be able to rely on you no matter your feelings. But this is not about being a people pleaser. It's not about deriving satisfaction from serving others, from being validated by doing so. Instead, it's about doing the right thing. Showing up when you say you're going to show up, even if that other person was a jerk to you. It's about following the rational order of the universe and being a good person. You have to ignore the part of serving others that feels good, that feels validating, and the stuff that feels inconvenient and uncomfortable. You have to ignore all of it and do your job anyway. And do it as best as you can. That's Stoic resilience. Because the Stoics placed a huge emphasis on our obligations to other people. Epictetus, in the handbook, says our duties are determined by our relationships. You're a son, a daughter, a neighbor, a citizen, a friend. And part of becoming a good person is fulfilling those roles as well as you possibly can, of giving them your all no matter how you feel. He even says that if a fortune teller divines that supporting your friend in a dispute will lead to your death, you should still stand with your friend, because that's what friends do. Again, it's really radical stuff. Other people aren't just energy drains in Stoicism, they're the source of most of your duties. And I'm going to do a much deeper dive about what Stoicism says about our relationships with others in another video, because it deserves way more than a footnote here, especially what Epictetus has to say. But for now, I just want to point out that the sort of rugged individualism and personal sovereignty that's promised in these McStoicism videos is just really far removed from the real thing. Again, I mean, there's a kernel of truth about not being reliant on others for validation. Stoics would definitely agree with that. That's fine. Good advice even. But the real punchline of the Stoic goal is that we still have to do all those things. We still have to serve others. We still have to be there for others, no matter how we feel about it. Another thing I want to talk about is Stoicism as a power move, because this individualism actually transforms into something even weirder and even less Stoic in some of the more bizarre Stoic slop out there. And I think it deserves its own point. There's like a whole subset of these videos selling Stoic detachment as a sort of power move in business and relationships. It encourages people to use performed apathy as a negotiating tactic. Here's an actual video title. When you stop chasing, they start begging. Stoic philosophy.
When someone is always talking, always explaining, always present, they can be taken for granted. But when they go still, that's when people finally listen. And that awareness becomes your edge, because nothing shakes a person more than the realization that they lost access to you.
So there's something insidious happening here. The detachment is performative. It's fake. It's aimed at an audience. You're supposed to act unbothered so that other people feel it, which means you're standing there appearing perfectly calm on the outside, but actually carefully monitoring whether or not your calmness is landing with others. This isn't ignoring other people's feelings about you. This is trying to control them. It's just manipulation. And this is about as far away from Stoicism as you can possibly get, because the entire point of Stoic training is to genuinely stop caring about how you appear to other people. Epictetus is brutally honest about this in chapter 13 of the handbook. If you want to make progress, you have to put up with looking foolish and stupid, like all the time. And if people suddenly start believing that you're somebody important and worthy of respect, you should start getting very suspicious of yourself, because you're probably not that great. And if somebody disrespects you, Epictetus thinks that you should respond by saying, well, good thing they didn't notice all of my other bad traits. You're supposed to be able to take insults and disrespect right on the chin and move on with your day, because it doesn't matter. That's what it means to genuinely not care what other people think. And it is not the key to success or a power move. That was never the intention. The key idea is just that those things literally don't matter because you can't control them, so you shouldn't care about them. And so when you try to deliberately perform not caring just to influence other people's opinions, you've totally lost the plot. That's just not Stoicism. So the power move version just sort of wears Stoic indifference like a weird costume. And it uses it to chase those things that Stoic philosophy was designed to tell you to stop chasing. Stuff like effectiveness in business or relationships or having leverage over people. Real Stoics don't care about any of that. Now granted, this video I just showed, and many others, is constantly undercutting itself and hedging in classic AI slop speak ways where it says things like, no, you're actually not being a manipulative jerk. You're just being authentic.
Because true stillness doesn't just pull you back, it pulls them in, not through manipulation, but through contrast.
This is just textbook manipulation, even if the video says that it's not. It's about trying to control other people's feelings. But the Stoics know that this is something you can never control, so you should stop trying. Don't even bother with it, because you can't control it and it doesn't matter. So withholding kindness or performing unavailability is just a pickup artist tactic in a toga. It's not Stoicism. A final point I want to make is that the moral lessons of Stoicism are completely lost in these videos. And this is because a lot of them are like deliberately vague about what the ultimate goal of human life is. Certainly they're more vague than Stoicism is. Instead, once again, they promote the sort of pursuit of authenticity and your own unspecified goals, where the advice is supposed to help you achieve those goals, whatever they might be.
This is what the Stoics meant by living with virtue, not moral superiority, but alignment. Your actions match your values, your words match your intentions, your life matches your vision.
So virtue is alignment, your life matching your vision and values. It's whatever is consistent with your goals and your values. There's nothing moral about it. But for the Stoics, living with virtue is moral superiority. It is following the rational moral order of the universe itself. Here and in a lot of other videos, virtue is totally emptied of its moral content in favor of self-actualization and choose-your-own-adventure kind of value insertion. But the image that Epictetus offers in chapter 17 of the handbook is the exact opposite of your life matches your vision. He says that you're an actor in a play. The length of the play and the part that you get, whether it's a beggar or a king or even a slave like he was, is chosen by someone else, mostly by fate itself or by God. You don't get to choose. Your only job is to play your assigned role well. And this is a crazy contrast with the modern AI Slop version of Stoicism.
Because you know you're living according to your own standards, not the world's. You're moving in the direction you chose, not the direction the crowd is drifting.
And I get what they're going for in terms of not getting swept up with trends, and Stoics definitely would have agreed with that. But what they're missing is how living in accordance with virtue is a very specific and moral kind of goal. You don't get to choose what's important. The universe, rationality, and even God himself has already chosen that for you. Remember, the universe is already organized in a way that's just and rational. Your only goal in life is to figure out what's your small part, what's your small role in the universe, and to play that role well. And again, this is a highly specific moral vision. It says that becoming virtuous means becoming honest, trustworthy, upright, decent, just, and wise. And it says that this is the ultimate goal of human life. Stoic virtue is refusing to do something morally wrong even if it kills you. Because living morally well is more important than living at all. We're supposed to cultivate our virtue no matter what happens in a world that we can't control. It's not about being more effective at work. Sure, that's a byproduct of being less distracted when you don't care about so many irrelevant things, but it's not the goal of Stoicism. And here's the irony in all this modern McStoicism stuff. Using Stoic wisdom to unlock your hidden potential and better achieve all of your goals was never the point of Stoicism. Ever. The actual, genuine, crystal clear central claim of Stoicism is that virtue is the only thing that matters. Everything else is indifferent. McStoicism takes a philosophy that says that your personal goals don't matter and turned it into a tool for achieving those goals. It's hard to be more wrong than that. So that's 5 of the main things that McStoicism gets wrong about the real thing. It sands off the difficulty, deletes God, walls you off from other people, turns detachment into a manipulation tactic, and redefines virtue, or gets rid of it entirely. All in the service of a highly marketable, commodified, secularized, personalized repository of wise-sounding life advice loosely rooted in ancient Stoic writings. And again, in fairness, it gets a lot of stuff right. I mean, it kind of has to. There's just so much of this stuff that by pure probability, it has to get some of it right. At least the basics. But it still leaves a lot to be desired. Mostly these 5 things, in my experience. But hey, if these videos get you curious about Stoicism, genuinely, great. That's a good thing. That's a real door that opens, and I would love for you to walk through it. I'd highly recommend reading the original Stoic texts, like Marcus Aurelius's Meditations or the Handbook of Epictetus. They're great. Go read them. But I hope that after watching this video at least, you'll know that real Stoicism, as recorded in the original texts, is going to ask harder things of you than AI-generated muscle men ever will. It's going to tell you that the work is difficult and slow, and that you're probably not going to want to do most of it. And that the goal of Stoicism is probably something very different from what you imagine based on those AI slop videos. But hey, nothing worth doing is ever easy. So yeah, thanks for watching. And if you learned something, be sure to like and subscribe for more Frank Philosophy.